So like, you hear stories of people like who get sexually assaulted even as a child and they don't say a word, a thing like for
Yeah.
years, years and years. Like that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
It's like you keep all of that inside and you learn to forget.
Yeah.
And then you forget it until you really need to become the best version of yourself. And then you realize you're hitting this wall and you're like, it's like hitting a glass wall. Yeah. And we are live.
Awesome. This is episode 2 of the Queendustry podcast. I'm Jenny, and this is...
Woo! And I'm
Porsche.
Portia.
Yes, and our podcast, we're here to talk to you about health and wellness, lifestyle, navigating the music industry, and how to be a boss-ass bitch. Basically. Bitch. Just like T-Shirt said. So happy New Year. It's a new year, right?
Happy New Year. Yes. We're finally in 2022.
Yes, we are. Do you have any New Year's resolutions, Porsche?
My New Year's resolution is to be consistent. I've been able to, do things that I like to do and love to do, but I haven't been able to be very consistent at it. So consistency is definitely one of my main goals in anything that I decide to do in the future. What about you?
That's a great one. I have that on my list too. That's actually a big one on my list. Yeah, I have the same thing where I feel like, if I really could lock down and be consistent in all aspects of my life, like I'll just be able to do so much more. Yeah, but
you become a master of your life when you're consistent at something. So
10,000 hours, right? They say you gotta do it every day. But yeah, that's top on my list. I usually make like a list of 10 things, so I don't know them off the top of my head, but
okay. But what's your most important one?
This year, I do it. I say it every year, but this year I'm taking like action to get in the mindset, but become a full-time musical artist, because I feel like I always do music, but not as an artist all the time, Sometimes I'm working for clients, so that's what I want to do. And
the bills have to be paid. I understand. I'm like, ooh, I would love to be a full-time artist, but the way these bills are set up in LA.
Yeah, I feel you. That's why, but it's balance, right? So I think the consistency is important. I think I need to do something every day. Yeah. Something every day that pushes the needle forward in my artistry. Yeah.
That's the start.
I feel like it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, I feel that way too. It's going to be a good year. I feel like a lot of us have come through complete and utter trash in the past year, since 2020 up until. So maybe, there's going to be a new leaf turned.
Yeah, it has to, right? What goes up must come down, what goes down must go up.
Yes, like everything is in cycles. So we've had like a really bad cycle energetically. Everyone felt that on the planet. So I think this year, the universe needs to give us a break.
Yes.
And I believe in miracles.
Yeah. Well, they say if we believe it, we can achieve it. So whatever we believe, that's it. That's my goal this year, is just to hold on to the belief, like fuck whatever else is going on. Like if I believe it, it's going to happen.
Yes. It's how you react to the situation. So not what actually occurs. It's how you react to it.
Exactly. There's another quote I heard. I think it's I heard Jim Quick say he like coaches people for like to read fast, I think, but I don't know if he came up with it, but he said life is oh crap, what is it? I'm gonna get it wrong. I don't remember. Okay. Between A and B. Life is the C between B. Oh, life is a C between B and D. The choice between birth and death. So all the choices you make between birth and death.
Okay.
So we make our life through our choices.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into this episode, though. What are we talking about today?
I think as women, I think in the media, there's been a lot of talk and stories coming out about consent, baby mama
Yes.
drama, allegedly rape, like just random things, going on in the media. And it's just a testament that we still, as women and as a people, between men and women, have a long way to go in terms
Mhm.
of finding um, a balance in the Me Too movement,
Mhm.
and really understanding what consent is, respect of boundaries. But it's so hard. It's so hard these days because access to social media and different people. Everyone is so accessible that I feel like it's just really hard to be, in general, a good person when you're in a relationship with someone or working with someone in that nature and just having a healthy relationship. So what we're not seeing is healthy relationships, and
Yep.
maybe we can talk about Me Too a little bit, consent, and what
Mhm.
to do if you're a woman or maybe a man in certain cases, in
Yeah, true. True.
yeah, in a predicament where you're challenged,
Mhm.
um and yeah, I think we should just talk about that, like how to navigate those murky waters, those bitch ass
Yeah.
waters.
Amen. Yeah.
Because I think we've
Damn,
all
yeah.
been there, you
Yes.
know at some point in our lives, which wasn't a good experience, but to see that it's still continuing and it's just being amplified, and it's almost like you guys aren't learning. Like people are going to jail. Like R. Kelly is really in jail. Like,
Yeah. Thank God for that finally. I caught up to him, but
yeah, and
yeah.
it's like still occurring. So it's almost like no one believes it can happen to them until it happens to them, but it can happen to you.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate those waters?
Yeah. Well, it's
Ooh.
gonna be a heavy episode today, but yeah, let's get into it. Don't worry, we'll present it in a way that is, we're not trying to bring you like it is heavy topics, but I think that we can always grow and learn from things, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't all have to be completely depressing, But of course,
It
we're
doesn't
trying.
have to be depressing, but it definitely should be
We should feel
informative.
our feelings. Yeah, we don't need to brush
Feel
it
our
aside.
feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't brush it aside. It's okay to speak on things that,
Yeah. That's what I learned is that I always just try to brush things aside and think like, okay, I'm a big girl, I can handle it. And then sometimes
Yeah.
years later, things come out where I
Yeah.
realize like this affected me in a way that I can't like in my
Yeah.
personal relationships, something that happened to me years ago. And you think
Yeah.
you just like grow past it, but it like changes the way you view men sometimes and the way you
Exactly.
view your partner. And
Yeah.
so,
It's very true. And not only that, like sometimes it takes years. It does. It takes years to cope
yeah,
with what has happened in the past. And sometimes it doesn't even turn up in relationships. It turns up in like your professional life. It turns up,
yeah,
in ways that you want to grow, but then you realize you can't grow past it because you haven't really acknowledged like this thing that's just weight that's there. And
yeah,
you're like, God, like I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my gosh, this is really attached to that. And I've never even dealt with it. And I've never even told anybody.
yeah. Damn.
so,
There's a
so
book called oh, sorry, what was
mhm.
it?
No, and I'm just saying that I've experienced that personally. And so I
Yeah.
definitely recommend speaking about it
Yeah,
sooner.
let's get into it a little bit. I was gonna mention a book. Well, maybe I'll bring there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. I don't know if you've heard of it, but that just
Hmm.
made me think of that. And it's by an author. I'm gonna look up the author now because I can't remember her name or his.
Hmm.
I don't remember if it's a guy or girl, but it's a doctor named Bessel van der Kolk. I think it's a man.
Mhm, you have all the
Um,
good books.
but it's very good. It talks about trauma and how it gets trapped in your body. And
Yeah.
that was a wake up call to me when I read that. But yeah, let's get into some of these details. So, well, first of all, let's talk about the word consent because I feel like it's a simple thing, but people make it out to be more complicated than it should be. So, I pulled up the dictionary definition of consent.
Oh,
And
dictionary.
yeah, so the official Merriam-Webster, let's see, which I also found interesting. Okay, so the definition, to agree to do or allow something, colon, to give permission for something to happen or be done. Seems pretty straightforward, right? That
Mhm.
like when I read that, I feel like, okay, that should like but their example sentence caught my eye because it said
Mhm.
their example sentences. He was reluctant at first, but finally consented. And I was like, what? Interesting choice of, because here we're talking about the idea of consent, which is like, you should be freely, I think consent needs to be freely given or it's not true consent. And
Mhm.
then here goes the dictionary with the like an example of like, oh, he didn't want to, but he was pushed
Yeah,
into it. So then he can
yeah.
like what?
Like what? Like
Merriam-Webster.
moron.
So yeah, let's talk about that. Do you think you
Yeah.
can be
Mhm.
coerced into consent?
Yes.
But do you think that's a true consent? I mean, I've been there and I actually, to be honest, like it took a while for like something that happened to me where I thought like, oh, I begrudgingly consented because someone pushed and pushed. And then I realized later I was talking to people and they're like,
You're
that wasn't
forced.
consent. That was not consent. Like,
Yeah.
you
You
know,
felt like you had to do it because
if you say no, 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 no for like half an hour and then somebody finally like, is that really a yes? It's not a yes.
no, it's not a yes. That's definitely a no, but it's a yes. Like if I don't say yes, I'm going to be in more trouble, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
Like
kind of thing. I don't want to, it's like, I don't want to make him mad or I don't
you
want
don't
him to
know
tell
what the
someone.
consequences. Yeah.
I've experienced that as well. That in itself is traumatizing.
It is because there's also the impact of almost for me, there was like a reckoning of self, like why, like almost like a self hate. Like I feel like I somehow fucked up because I
Yeah.
gave the consent. Like, why didn't I fight or why didn't I run? Like all these things
Okay.
later on that seem to make sense. But in the moment, they say the fight or flight response. My
Yeah.
therapist told me there's another one called fawn, which is where you go along with. I don't know if she made this up, but I was like, oh, this sounds like she said it because based on what I told her, but you go along with things and so as not to stir up trouble. Like you just
Yeah.
follow the, yeah.
That's
So
what you can
that's my
see.
response that tends to happen. I tend to just
Yeah. I
go
can,
along with, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that. That's definitely not a form of consensual. That's
Yeah.
like,
It's not
that's,
consent.
yeah, that's like, I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm going to do it before I get into
Yeah.
more trouble and just do it, get it over
Yeah.
with.
So for ladies listening, and if anyone's ever been in this situation though, I think it's not like you have to have compassion on yourself because a lot of times
Yeah.
we, in hindsight, we think, oh man, I did something wrong. But people
Yeah.
who, those people who do that, like they already have that intention in their mind. They're kind of
Yeah.
like preying on you in a way. It sounds horrible, but it's kind of true. Like
Yeah.
they're seeing you respond in a certain way and testing your waters, a little bit. Like a lot of times they'll push your boundaries and see if you'll, and it's like, oh, she said no, but she's wavering. So I'm going to keep pushing. Like,
Right.
so you're not at fault because the person knows what they're doing. I think that a
Yeah.
lot of women don't realize that. We think like, oh, somehow we gave the wrong message or we made them
Yeah.
think.
And sometimes, like in my experience, like if it didn't happen in your adulthood, like this happened in my childhood, um, they don't
Mhm.
really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're just
Or
doing
like
it
the
because
other person that is also not
they
sure
don't
about.
a child, yeah, like they don't know what they're doing. Like they're probably just doing what, they heard men in their family talk about or something that they may have experienced. And as a child, like as a woman, not a woman, but as a girl,
Right. Yeah.
um, like when that kind of happens to you, you're like, oh no, 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 I don't wanna. And they're like, well, if you don't, I'm gonna tell so and so. I'm gonna tell. Da, da, da.
Oh
So
gosh.
like that happened to me. And
Yeah.
as a child, you don't think that way. You don't think
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like you just like, I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening. And like in that instance, it's kind of like as a child, like you just let that happen to you. And then you just
Yeah.
go home and you say nothing. And you probably say
Yeah.
nothing for years and years
Yeah.
until it manifests in your life where it's like, I want to be this person, but I can't because I was muted as a child,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I'm sorry you went through that. That
So
is, and that is a common experience too, which I feel like that's on. I mean, whose responsibility is it that like people don't, because like that people don't know or supposedly don't know? Is it the parents? Is
Well,
it society? How are we failing
I think
this way?
the responsibility is on the person that has gone through it as an adult, because it
Mhm.
takes time to work through that. Because as a
Yeah.
child, you can't. There's no like, I don't know. I've never been an outspoken child. Like I've grew up, with the Caribbean family, and
Mhm.
the culture is like you can't say anything. Like you're a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah.
Like that's just the culture. So it's like when I guess like when you become into your own person and you finally find the
Mhm.
courage to have the voice to speak up and speak about it, you
Mhm.
recognize how things can happen. You know
Mhm.
how it happened to you. So if
Yeah.
you're an adult now and you have a child, like, what situations to not put your
Mhm.
child in, because you just don't know,
Yeah.
you just don't know. So that's how I see it, taking responsibility, because as a child, like you can't,
Yeah.
as a child, you can't do
Yeah.
much.
They don't know. You know, that is interesting that just like woke me up because I feel like I used to think if things happen to me, I'm just one person, I could take the hit. But the
Mhm.
fact that you said it's the responsibility of people who it's happened to, because we need to be the ones to tell other people because we know how it plays out.
How
So
to,
it's
yeah,
almost, yeah. So I'm like, okay, it is a responsibility for me to speak up, even though it's sometimes can be embarrassing or shameful to speak on
yeah.
your own. But if I don't, then people won't learn, so you
I'm
have
not
to,
embarrassed
yeah.
at all. I, but I get it. I'm not embarrassed at all. I'm like, yeah, well, it happened. It's common. That's why. That's why there shouldn't be
Yeah.
any embarrassment, because it's very common, and you learn from the things that you go through and you grow through them.
Yeah. And I think the embarrassment probably is a mechanism probably put in place years ago for men to control women, right? Because it's like, let's do
Yeah,
these bad things to women and then make them feel shame so they will never tell anyone. So we can keep doing these
exactly.
things.
And that's the patriarchy, and
Yeah.
that system is still
Fucked up.
it's still in cycle. Like as women, you really have to mentally liberate yourself from that thought, so that you don't feel
Yeah.
like, you're just in this little box of what
Yeah.
society's expectations, what men's expectations for you reside.
Damn. I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm
Yeah.
waking up to some things. And I kind of know that I'm sort like that you said muted, and that was such a good word because I feel like I've been that way for so long, and I'm just now realizing like it's not
Yeah.
even about me. Like I feel like we have responsibility as women to
To speak
unmute
up,
ourselves. Yeah, it's
to
for other
unmute,
women. Yeah.
have the courage to do it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter when, like how long it takes. It took me a long time. Like I did not say a word. I didn't even tell my mother
Mhm.
until like a few years ago. So like, you hear stories of people like who get sexually assaulted even as a child, and they don't say a word, a thing, like for
Yeah.
years and years and years. Like that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
It's like you keep all of that inside, and you learn to forget.
Yeah.
And then you forget it until you really need to become the best version of yourself. And then you realize you're
Yeah.
hitting this wall, and you're like,
Yeah.
it's like hitting a glass
Oh
wall.
my God.
Let's say
Yeah.
it's like hitting a glass ceiling, but
Yeah.
like you can't break it. You're like, what? Can I break the ceiling? And it's
Yeah, that's
because,
real.
yes.
I I found that coming up in relationships, like, something that happened to me, and then I really wanted to tell the person I was with, but I couldn't, like, it's like something would come up in my throat each time, and I wouldn't, because I just, like, it was like I was afraid, but it was like, I mean, this
That's when
is
you know it
I
matters.
couldn't even, yeah, I was, like, not enjoying sex, and it wasn't
Yeah.
anything wrong with that guy, but it just,
Yeah.
it set something off in me where it was like, yeah, you view it differently now. Like
Mhm.
I started viewing it as a power struggle where it wasn't like that with that guy, but it's just like the body, the book, The Body Keeps Score. It like
Yeah.
memorizes it in your body,
Yeah.
and like I was like, oh, I have to tell. Eventually I told him, and he was accepting, but I was like, I just had so much fear around it. Like, oh, are they gonna view me as like broken or as like
Mhm.
they're gonna blame me for not speaking up? And there's so much around it. And now I'm recognizing that's the patriarchy, like
Mhm.
implanted those voices in my head so I wouldn't speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah. But we're
well,
we're
yeah,
breaking those. We're
we
breaking those.
are breaking through. Let's talk a little bit specifically about the music industry because I think, I mean, in every industry, this is a problem, but there's certain industries where it is just set up to be rampant because it's already an industry of creatives and people who are very sexually charged already. The creatives tend to be, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just an
Creativity
environment.
comes from sexuality.
Yeah, it is
It
an
is what it
environment
is.
that if left unchecked can be dangerous. So
Very dangerous.
how do we navigate that? Like without having to mute ourselves, so to speak, right? Because we don't want to mute our creativity or our sexuality.
Right.
So yeah,
Well,
I don't have the answer.
I have suggestions, but I do not have the answers because, we see women, in the light who's made it through. We don't know what they've gone through, but we see that they've
Yeah.
made it,
What are some common things that like some common tactics you've run? Like when I first started, I feel like people would be like, oh, let's work, let's build. And like I in the beginning, they always tell you want to network as much as you can, or you want to collab as much as you can. And it's funny because it's now I think back, it's always men that always gave that advice because it's well-meaning advice. It is good, but at the same time, they're not thinking about the flip side of people taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
I did do that in the beginning. Like anytime someone wanted to work, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And then ended up in some precarious situations.
Yeah.
But
people are weirdos.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, my suggestion, I would say learn your craft, but you've learned your craft. Like you can Jenny, you dope. Like you engineer yourself, thanks. You do all of that. I would say for women, women need to master their craft by themselves, just so that they can have that protection of, if they're making like a sexual song, they don't really trust this producer, but their beat is dope. They can send you the beat pack and then you go in the studio and you record what you got to record.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a way to do it, but it also requires a level of discipline and mastery in your own craft.
Yeah.
And financially being in a position where you can protect yourself from that. Because
you don't need that guy to help you. Yeah.
You don't need the help. Like you do need the help, but you have your boundary. Like you are also valuable, Like a lot of these guys think, that, oh, this is this artist, I'm going to make her into a star. I'm going to give her a beat, going to give her the melody, da, 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 da. She's not working. She ain't got no money. So you're going to pay me in this,
Oh, damn.
Yeah. A lot of that happens.
I bet. I'm hearing you say that it's about having kind of being on equal ground, right? Because if it's unequal, there's sort of a power, like they can hold something over your head, whether it be money or beats or skill or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You better be really good in the booth. You better sound like Beyonce, okay?
Yeah. No, I said that the sexual content, that's real though. You mentioned that, like singing about, because we both like to sing about sexuality. I mean, that's a normal. I think 99% of music is about sex in some way. Yeah. So, and I don't want to have to censor myself. And that's what I want to sing about. That's what I want to sing about. But I have run into issues where I've been in sessions and I'm like, I'm getting in my zone. I think we're on the same page, like writing, we're all creative juices flowing. And then I realize the guy is like looking at me in a weird way, or like they start coming on to you because they think like, oh, you're saying all that. And it's like, I thought we were writing a song, but that means their mind was in the wrong place in the first place. But
yeah. But most men are sexual beings, and most artists, especially female artists, are very attractive.
I think it comes down to intention. Like if a person's really serious about making a good record and they're really professional and their mind is on the record, their mind shouldn't be straying there, at least not in the session. I think later on, if they want to try asking them out, but it's tricky. I don't think you should do it if you're in a current working relationship, but sometimes people like Beyonce and Jay-Z probably met working together. I think you can meet through work, but I don't think you should take advantage of the work in order to meet. If that makes sense. Like that can be the way you met, and if there's sparks later on, later on, ask them out in a polite, proper way.
I don't know,
Not
but
like,
life is weird because everything's not going to be perfect like that. Because I mean,
yeah,
I've been in the industry, and I was actually in a relationship with someone in the industry, and that I worked with too.
yeah,
We ended up being in a 2-year relationship, and that worked out.
yeah.
Until it
It just has
didn't.
to be organic. I think it has to be
Yeah,
intentional and organic. It can't be like this person is like,
it has to
yeah,
be welcomed, and I think
yeah,
that like if I don't like you, I don't like you, sir, and like no, you cannot hold this record over me. Well, you don't like me, then I'm not gonna, I'm throwing this record in the trash. Like that's toxic mentality. That's
that's
toxic
so petty.
masculinity, and it's very petty, and it does happen.
Even on, yeah, like even celebrities do it.
Even yes, and it's just
Didn't
not.
Calvin Harris and Taylor Swift, they went through something like that too. And like,
I don't get it. So it's not so in that case, it's not like any of them need the money, any of them need the
yeah,
records, but they're still
they're
going
just
through the
petty.
BS. It's just men want what they want. And if they can't get it, some of them act like bitch asses.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. So the only way to protect yourself is to make sure that you are of value and that you're not in a place where you need this person.
Yeah.
That's how you can exit.
Yeah. And to the men out there, if they're listening and they're confused about like, well, when can I make a move if I think there's mutual attraction? I think it all comes down to consent, as we said again. And like, you have to read the signs. And if in doubt, always play it safe. Like,
ask.
Ask. Exactly. Like, there's polite ways to do it.
Date. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't go on a date because like, I'm gonna rape you.
Honestly, I think a date is always safe. I personally, my preference, I always like when men ask me on a date because it's clear cut. Yeah. And then if I say no, it's not a rejection of their human being. It's just, I'm not interested in this date. And if you say yes, it's a clear green light. So it makes it very clear. And it's not a green light for sex necessarily, but a green light for the next step,
This is not complicated. It's so simple.
Yeah. A lot of guys, it boggles me, like men who ask me like they talk about like, people don't go on dates anymore. I'm like, that's just because you aren't asking women. But like, I go on dates. If a man, like some people go on dates, like, like you don't have to, some people think, oh, it's outdated, but like, no, it's not, you can just ask someone.
Yes. I love dates. Take me on a date.
I always like when someone asks because it shows that they're interested. Like there's a little excitement. You get dressed
and when they do it,
wear your nice pants.
I actually had that recently, and I was like, yes, I like that.
Yeah. So yeah, when in doubt, just ask. I think. And so if you're working with someone, I don't think it necessarily means you can't. I like my last relationship that we met through work too, but we didn't get together in the booth that day, like
yeah.
And then you gotta feel it out. Yeah, you gotta feel it out.
You gotta get to know people. Like you can't make assumptions. It definitely needs to be mutual.
Yeah. Yeah. And he asked me out. So I think that you have to wait for that. Yeah. Later on we got together in the booth, but that's a later story. I think
I'm chuckling because you read the meaning of consent from the dictionary, and I'm reading it in the Urban Dictionary.
Oh, what does that say? Oh God, let's compare notes.
Okay, so here's here's the second. There's two definitions. It's funny. Consent is like tea, because if someone doesn't want tea, don't give them the tea. If they're unconscious or drugged, don't give them the tea. Unconscious people don't want tea.
Oh, yeah, that should be a given.
That's funny. But here's the second definition. Consent. Your spouse giving you permission to fuck him, her. When it's consensual, sex is the best thing ever. Without consent, it's unforgivable.
Hey, actually, that is a pretty good definition.
That's the best definition.
Unforgivable.
It's unforgivable. And that's a fact.
I did forgive people, but I think that's more for me, for my peace of mind. But
forgiveness is okay. Like I forgive my abuser. When I was a child, I forgive them because for both children. So
Yeah.
you're not really thinking rationally. You don't know what you're doing. So I forgave.
Yeah. And if
And
that
it seemed
person
like
shows like they want to learn or, you know, and even if they don't, it's for ourselves, really. I think the
for
forgiveness.
ourselves. Yeah. But if that occurs in our adulthood, no,
Yeah.
it's no forgiveness. It's unforgivable.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the situation happened as an adult, but I forgave him because I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like he knew what he did, but I also feel like if I hold on to it, I will just I I was having trouble like in like relationships, and I feel like holding on to that, I didn't want to hold on to the dynamic of like being a victim or being like I really need to let it go and let it be like this thing happened,
Right.
you know, and I forgave him. But that was from but we don't have a friendship. He tried for a while to keep having a friendship. We like were working together, and he wanted to keep.
Did you discuss it with him?
I did, and I think that's what helped me forgive him because he was
Okay.
felt really bad, and he acknowledging it as I don't even want to say the word, but as rape, like that was a wake up call to me because I even denied it at first, but because he acknowledged it, that helped a lot, I think.
Okay.
But for me, like I drew the boundary. Like he wanted to keep working on the record, and I was like, I can't do that. I forgive you, but we're not gonna have any working relationship anymore. Like there's
And what
nothing.
sucks though, what
But
sucks,
we had good music, which sucks. Like
that's what sucks because
we,
it happens when you have the best music.
yeah, that's what I was
That's
saying is people getting the wrong idea because I thought we were on the same page of making a record, but he was like thinking I was thinking these things about him. I don't know. That's his excuse. That's what he said. I think that some men just are going to take when they want to. I could have been like not saying those things and probably still would have tried, you know,
right.
but that scared me for a while of like, oh, if I say something in the booth or we weren't even recording in the same, like it was remote at first. Like
Mhm.
now I'm scared. Like if I do something like that, are people going to read it the wrong way? Like, but I'm tired of having to censor myself. Like, I don't want to have to do that.
You don't have to censor yourself. But
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for working it out with that person and finding it in your heart to forgive because most people don't. It's lawsuits after lawsuits after lawsuits, child.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah. Life is
Um,
messy. I mean,
that is very
it's,
messy.
yeah. So okay, so how do we heal? I guess we talked a little bit about it. I think forgiveness is a big part of it. And how do we like prevent for people who maybe um are new to the industry or just like what are some red flags to watch out for when it comes to like it's
After
it's a
you
little
record, he
blurry.
don't send you the
Yeah.
recording.
You know what?
After you record the music and you leave and he don't send the recording, that's a red flag.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you should try to get your session. At least I always do this now, and I'll send this to if I'm engineering for someone, like before they leave, I'll try to send
Mhm.
them something. And if I have to stem it out, I'll try to do that the night at least after they leave and
Yeah,
try to finish it. Yeah, I try not to put that off too long. Like,
yeah.
you know,
When they don't do that, it's a red flag.
and they hold it
Um,
over your head. Yeah.
hold it over your head. Um, what else? What else are red flags?
Man, okay, so
If you don't feel comfortable
yeah, the vibe. Go
in
off
the
the vibe
environment,
because
yeah, off the
yeah.
vibe. If you're not comfortable in the environment, you're like, ooh, you may not know what's happening, but energy does not lie. When
Yeah.
you walk
I
into
wish I
someplace
knew
and it
that.
feels off, it's
Yeah.
off. If
Yeah.
something don't feel right, it ain't right.
Another thing I learned is I tend to do this thing where I used to at least, now I'm more aware, but I would try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And I
Mhm.
would do that so much that it's ridiculous. Like I've been like looking back, I'm like, how did yeah,
Me
but it's
too.
weird because they'll push you. Because I realized like I've ended up in situations where like anyone looking at it would be like, duh. But it didn't start that way, right? Because the way these people do it, like this particular situation I have in mind, like the guy, he knew what he was doing, but he would push it. Like he started lighting a candle. And then in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe people like some people, maybe he needs that for his inspiration. And then you do a little thing like he just starts doing a little thing, like maybe ask for a massage, and then I'm like, oh, maybe
That's common.
he just, yeah, that's a common thing. And it sucks because I like massages and I give friends massages and they give me like that used to be a very innocent thing to me.
Yeah.
But now I'm really aware that it's a tactic.
Yes.
You know, but things that can be used as tactics doesn't mean they're not, like, okay, even like sex, right? Like sex is enjoyable with the right person, but someone will use it as a tactic. So it sucks.
You. Get her
yeah. So you just have to, I think the vibe is, it sucks because you can't use that in a court of law. You can't be like, it felt wrong, but like you could feel it,
Yeah. Well, I would think if you're in that position that you would have to be vocal when it's happening. He starts, you're in the studio, you're like, I need to get this session, and he starts lighting candles and stuff. I'm like, the regular light is fine. You change it to green, blue, but we don't need the sensual candle. Like, what's that?
Yeah.
And being vocal about it and come up with anything to get out of there.
Yeah, that's something I wish I knew. So hopefully people listening now will be able to not make those same mistakes. But if it's starting to feel wrong, you can snap yourself out of it. You don't need to get that record done that day. So the benefit of the doubt thing, right? Even if you realize later, oh my gosh, this person, he just really likes candles. Like, it's fine because you can always reschedule the session later. You don't have to, if you're in that and you're already feeling uncomfortable, it's better to just get out of there, reassess. And then if you realize you were...
Call. Somebody's calling me right quick.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
I have some. Yeah.
Oh, bad word about
that. And then just get out of there.
Get out there.
Yeah. There's no record that's like important enough for you to not be safe.
Yeah. And then sometimes you do develop relationships with these people, and you develop a really good friendship, and then you realize, dang, they don't even want to be my friend. They
want something else.
And then there's the patient ones, and those are the sad ones, because it's like, wow, like I really like you as a person, but like we can't be together, in this way.
Yeah, I've had that happen, and this was not even in it with music, but I was working with him in a different capacity, but it's like we had a great friendship for a long time, like a year or two. And then I guess at some point he tried to make a move, which I also don't think is wrong to try to ask. I think you can always shoot your shot, but it's just what you do after that like, can you accept it and be respectful of the person's answer?
Right.
If you can't, then you don't respect the person. Like, this person, it's tricky because we're still friends. But like, he made up a whole thing in his head about a relationship. I'm like, we never had a relationship.
Right.
You just had a crush on me and we were friends. And then you shot your shot and it didn't work out. And damn. Okay.
Boring, especially when they have a whole other spouse. Like,
oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I had experience with someone who I didn't know they had a girl, and that was like, we weren't dating, so it's a little different. But still, it's always like, what? I'm always so confused.
Yeah.
I never really understand what's going on.
Confusion is a red flag. If you are confused, it's a no-go. Yeah. You should know. Confusion is red flag. Red flag.
Yeah. Red flags. Yeah, I think anything that feels wrong, or if it looks and smells wrong, it's probably wrong. Okay, so those are some, and then I guess just trust your gut, really. What else do we have?
Trust your gut, because your gut will definitely tell you. Yeah.
So how can we be?
So I just wanted to say, like, if you're like a musician, artist, and you're in a studio, there's going to be weed, there's going to be alcohol, that's just the nature of the beast. It's going to be all kinds of weed brownies, everybody trying to get lit, trying to get high. Just be mindful if you're doing it. Just be mindful of your environment.
Yeah.
And be responsible. You might see something else. There'll be all kinds of drugs. You might see it in LA. It's not like it's a normal thing.
That's a thing. Yeah. Stripper poles. I've been in many a studio with the stripper pole.
Fun stuff. Like, that's fun stuff. But it's just doing it ethically and being with people that you trust.
Yeah.
for one, being with people that you trust. And if there's drugs present, other than weed and stuff that's regulated, you have a choice. You don't have to do it, but if you choose to do it, that's on you. So
Yeah.
choose your
Having
decisions.
people you trust for sure. Yeah. I wish every woman in the industry could afford to just have a bodyguard. I feel like a lot of times I wish I could just have a bodyguard with me. Just like,
or just someone who's just really green, that don't smoke, don't do alcohol. That's just woke.
Yeah, and he's gonna watch out for you, like
it's time to go. Let's go.
Yeah.
You got your record? What this hoe over here doing? No, it's time to go. Everybody needs someone like that in their lives.
Yeah. Maybe I should start when I have the funds, start a nonprofit and provide bodyguards for up and coming artists. We could pair bodyguards in training with artists in training. Like,
yeah, but they would have to be successful. We can't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they have to be a successful artist. But I think they already have.
Because it's gonna be expensive.
They can afford a bodyguard. What I would like though is to have housing for artists.
Yeah.
I think housing, safe housing, and like a nice housing for artists, like where they don't have to pay rent and they can just create. Because I think, especially in like places like LA, it's just so expensive to live here. Like most artists that are like just as talented as Michael Jackson, just as talented as Beyonce, may never get the chance to live to their full potential just because it's just so expensive to live here.
Yeah, for sure.
And they can't buy your equipment because you got to pay this $1,500 rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's real. It's real.
It is real here. So I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good goal. Like buy a big house and make it an artist house.
Yeah,
make it an artist. They have some of those in LA. I've seen.
Do, but it's usually the managers that have
making money, right?
That are making money, however they're making it, and they house artists. We've seen that, but we haven't seen like a government-funded apartment building just for artists, where they can just be themselves and create and put their work out into the world. I think that would be helpful.
That would be dope. And like, I guess there would have to be some sort of application process, but maybe it's like a grant, like you apply and then show them like you're serious about your work. And then you have to have like a project come out of it at the end of the lease or whatever.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about on this topic? I'm just going over the notes real quick and see. Well, we didn't talk too much about toxic masculinity, but I think it's embedded in the nature of the idea of consent. I think it feeds into it, like people, because I think at the core of it, if you respect people, then you're gonna listen to see if there's consent, right? It's just when people aren't respecting the woman and they're viewing them as like means to an end.
Well, most men don't. Not most men. Some men do respect women, but I find like a lot of like rappers and things that are in the music industry just don't respect women the way that they need to respect them.
Do you think that comes from the toxic masculinity of like a lot of lyrics I think talk about?
I think so too.
Like, she belongs to the streets. I hate that term.
Yeah, like I'm gonna give me this.
So what about you? Or passed around, like people saying someone's
like
it's like there's such a double standard.
It is a double standard. And the only way that as a woman you can liberate yourself is to not need any man.
Yeah. Or
you can want a man, have a man, but to not financially need them, so that you need to be able to exist on your own, in your own space. And I think that's the only way you can, have that control and be safe.
Yeah. I think safe.
But it don't matter.
The idea of needing. I agree with you. I think you need to be financially independent, but I like the idea of. I heard someone say this. I think it was Lewis House. No, it wasn't him. It was someone else. I can't remember who it was, but someone said like, "Oh, I don't like." It was a man that said it, so obviously, but he was like, "I don't agree with the term of I don't need a man or I don't need a woman," because he was like, "I need a woman, but not in the way like he like." in a complimentary way, you know? So I actually like the way he said that, because I was like, I need a man in my life,
I
but
need a
not in
man.
the way that I need him. Like, I don't, like, I'm single now, so, and I'm
I
fine,
need
you
a
know?
man.
But I mean, like, I would, like, in terms of I know that if I had a man in my life, like, in my bigger goals I want to set, like having a family and having a legacy, like, that is going to be an integral part of that role. But I am not dependent on him, but I'm not shutting out him either. You know, I think it has to be a mutual thing. Like, we
Yeah.
both help each other grow.
Yeah.
I like
I like
that. But
that too.
yeah,
I like
but
that
the
too.
independence is
In
real.
a
You don't want to have
perfect
to, like,
world,
yeah,
but they see a high value woman as a threat, and it's so weird. I'm just like, bro, like,
yeah.
you want us to have money or you don't. Choose your hard, because that's hard. And I'm so
Yeah.
like, I will never emasculate my man, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Even
I
if
want a man to be masculine, and I like
yeah,
manly men. I don't want to feel like
yeah.
I don't be like, I don't
Like,
need you. I need him, but I don't need him,
it's
you
just
know?
it's just a
It's
safety thing. It's just that we don't
yeah.
have to these days we do not have to deal with certain things anymore, you know, like
Yeah.
domestic abuse and verbal abuse.
Yeah.
And the only way you can free yourself if you end up in that situation is by being financially independent.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
so we don't need you never want to get backed in a corner, basically. You never want to get in a point where you don't
you
want
can't
to rely on him, but you have to rely
have
on him.
to and you're stuck.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah. I
that's
want to
scary.
rely on my man because I want to rely on him, and he wants me to rely on him. I don't want to rely on him because I have to, you know? It's
In a
different.
perfect world. It's
Yeah.
so hard out here. These guys, they don't even want that. They want Shancy, they want Tamika, they want everything. Like they're not even thinking about I'm talking about the single ones. It's so difficult. It's like give you a whole quality woman and they don't care because they're getting their pie. They don't have to settle down.
Well, sooner or later they'll get tired. And if they don't, then that's not the man for me, you know? Like, that's not the kind of man I'm trying to attract. So,
It's
I'm just
hard
trying
to
to look at
find.
it that way. There's every flavor out there, right? I like, if there's a man who wants to live single, like, do it. Be you, and I'm not for
If
you.
you want an open relationship, I think we're in a time now where it's okay to be in an open relationship. I think people
Yeah.
are very open about that. And I
It
would
just needs to
rather,
be agreed upon, I think, right?
yes, I would
Yeah.
rather that than you doing this old school thing and, you know, seeing so and so on this day, on that day. Then I don't hear from you for the next 2 days. And then I'm like, it's 2022. Like people are growing up, grow up.
Yeah. Honesty is the best policy, as they say.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't think I could do an open relationship, but I don't know. I mean, I'm open-minded. If I meet someone who wanted to do it, I would assess the situation and see. I'm never closed off. I never like to say like never for anything. I think just communication and honesty. Intention is everything, you know.
Well, technically, people have been in open relationships. They just don't know about
They
it.
just don't know.
It's
Secretly.
been happening. It's just, are you woken up to acknowledge it now?
Yeah. It's funny because the people who are most against, like, I've heard people be like, no, I would never want an open relationship. I can't have my woman going out. And then those are the people who would cheat. So it's like, you really are in an open relationship. You just don't want your woman in an open relationship.
You just haven't told her. And it
Yeah.
baffles because it's 2022. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's all about, I think, just honesty and intention. And therapy.
Yeah.
Did you say therapy? Yeah. Everybody go to therapy.
I
Change your
have
life.
not attended therapy yet. I've been doing self-therapy and I've been doing a great job, I think. You know,
Yeah. Well, everyone has their own form of therapy. It could be music.
I'm not opposed. Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to it. I definitely recommend therapy. And I would really like to see in the music industry, like I would like to see artists get benefits, and part of those benefits be therapy.
Oh yeah.
Because artists do not have they don't get therapy. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know the Grammy Foundation, there's this called what is it called? Because I had some help from them during the pandemic too. They had a lot of stuff for artists, and I don't know if they were giving free therapy, but they definitely had resources. So they do things from time to time to help out artists. So I can't remember what they're called. I'm gonna look it up so we can put it in It's
Okay.
like the
Yeah.
Grammys.
We need therapy, Jen.
Music Cares. It's called Music Cares. Yeah, check out their website. It's like their charity arm, but they did
Yeah.
stuff like during the pandemic. They would just help people pay for rent. They helped cover like a month of rent for me, and like
Nice.
yeah, so they've helped out a lot. They covered groceries and like I know they had some stuff for therapy. I didn't look too deep into it, but
Yeah, that's dope. Super dope. Yeah, let's share
yeah,
that link. And we'll definitely share
yeah.
that.
We'll put it in the description
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Because we're
All
still
right.
going through a panoramic.
Yeah, and it's now Omarion. I got
It's
this
now a
nice
Marion.
in my heart used to
It's an Omarion now. We need therapy. 'Cause,
Oh man, I don't know what's gonna happen with this
I
panoramic
a panoramic. That is funny.
panoramic DMAC. You know
Who
that
came up
song?
with
Panoramic.
that?
Um, yeah, but all right. Well, I think we've covered it all. I mean, there's always more to talk about, but
Always
we'll
more to
drop
talk
some of the resources in the description.
Yeah.
And any
For
closing thoughts, Porsche?
No, be you, do you, be great. Happy 2022.
Yes, happy 2022.
Strive for all of your goals. And and remember, like it's not what happens to you, it's how you react. So things are always gonna happen. So just stay uplifted and grow through what you go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say come from your dream instead of coming like everything you do come from the place you want to be, you know?
Mhm.
Be in alignment with that version of yourself.
Yes. Yes. Being in alignment with what you want to do. That's
Yes.
another goal. Consistency and being in alignment.
Yes. Yes, yes. All right. Well, we'll catch you guys all on the next episode.
Yay.
So,
All right. Bye, guys.